Hello, everybody. I'm James, and I play the cello. And you're in a minute. You're about to hear me plus my three colleagues in the Sierra Quartet performing Beethoven's String Quartet, Opus 59, Number 1. But to help set the stage for us, I have a really esteemed musicologist in the room. Jane VIAL Jaffe has written for many, many performing organizations. For 29 years, she was the annotator of the Aspen Music Festival. She's also written for Manhattan School of Music and the Great Mountains Music Festival, Sejong Soloists, Carnegie Hall, Kimmel Center. So really all across the country and internationally. And she's my mom, so I get to talk to her and about some of my favorite music. So I'm very happy, and thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So today we are getting into Beethoven's Quartet, Opus 59, Number 1. A lot of us probably know about Beethoven himself. If you don't, welcome. It's you're in for a treat. But would you be up for sort of situating us a little bit within where in Beethoven's life this piece comes in?
You've probably heard about Beethoven's three periods also. He is famous for his early, middle, and late periods. And so this is the first quartet of his middle period. And that it was probably written around 1804 to 1805. And this follows a period when he had some intense self-examination with his deafness. He wrote the famous Heiligenstadt Testament, which is just heart-wrenching about he's so embarrassed to be in society because he can't hear what people are saying, and should he kill himself even? It went really dark. So on the heels of this, he writes in an entirely new style. And so this Razumovsky quartet, the first of them, the first of three, really floored the critics and the musicians alike because Beethoven was writing in an entirely new style. And the person who commissioned it, Count Razumovsky, was the Russian ambassador in Vienna. And he himself was an excellent violinist. But we sort of wonder, was he up to playing this quartet?
I wonder that sometimes when I'm sitting down to do it. So
anyway,
he'd be in good company.
To get back to this radical new style, expanded forms, epic themes, a lot of complexities built in that are just mind-boggling. The further you dig, the more you find. And one of his early biographers said that perhaps no work met a more discouraging reception from musicians as well as critics. And Beethoven famously said to the first violinist, Szczepanik, who had complained about something, he said, "Do you suppose I'm thinking about your wretched fiddle when the spirit moves me?" He wasn't always the most tactful, but yeah, there's a lot of hard stuff in there, right, James?
Oh yeah, and I love that. I think, if maybe there's a lesson in there, which is that if you want to make something innovative, then caring too much what people think isn't going to help. Would you, as we prepare to listen to it, would you be willing to sort of walk us through a little bit what's going on in the four movements of the piece?
Yeah, this goes to the idea of his radical new style, the expansion, the wide range. He'll hear the cello introduce the first melody, and then immediately he opens up the whole space by having the first violin do it. And in the first theme itself, there are a whole lot of different ideas, contrasting little snippets that aren't a major theme in themselves, but that he comes back to and uses later on in the movement. And even when, as a college student in theory class, we were counting all the little ideas in there, and we came up with around 9, of which number 5 is what we normally consider the second theme, like in a new key area. So, but
So
along
he's
with
putting like he's putting 9 themes in the space of 2, or
yeah, there you
where other
go.
composers would have done too.
But what's interesting is that they're not just fly by night. He uses them in various interesting ways later in the movement.
Wow. Um, Great. Okay, so that's our first movement, and then what happens?
Well, we were talking about extremes of range, and that continues into the second movement.
Uh-huh.
This movement is not a slow movement. It's a scherzo, although Beethoven didn't call it that, although he said it was to be played in a scherzando manner. And I think the reason
Okay.
he didn't call it a scherzo proper is because it's a full-fledged sonata form. So
Okay, so 2 movements, 2 full-fledged sonata forms so far.
yeah, but the character is completely different here, and
Mm-hmm.
it's an amazing thing that he does. He takes a little repeated note pattern and makes a whole theme out of it and uses it in many different ways throughout the movement.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite amazing, actually.
Yeah, and I just picking up on what you said about how it's so scherzo for any of us out there is a joke, musical joke, but he didn't, as you said, he didn't call it that. But then he said "ma sempre scherzando," but always joking. Um, and that whole "this is what I said, but this is not really what I said, but this is what I said," completely, in my opinion, continues, through the movement. And so it comes to this part where he takes the joke as a real controversial stand-up comic might, too far. He just takes it too far, and near the end of the piece, and in keeping with Beethoven's style, he doesn't care, but then he says, did I take it too far? And then he kind of ends the movement. I hope you understand this is all my opinion, right? Because I think there's no right way to listen to a piece like this. But that he ends it with okay, but I was kidding the whole time. So
It's really funny ending. I think you'll really like it.
um great. And so then what happens in the third movement? Is it
Oh,
another sonata?
you can't get a greater contrast between that scherzo and this adagio. Beethoven's famous for his slow, poetic adagios, and this is even more so. He
Uh-huh.
adds the word mesto to the title, which means mournful. And as a musicological aside, on one of his sketches, um, he wrote a weeping willow or acacia on my brother's grave. And so it
Whoa.
clearly had some association with something with death and sadness and whatever. We don't know exactly which brother he was talking about, because he had a brother who survived into adulthood and he had
Mhm.
another brother who died in infancy,
Yeah.
but no one knows.
Yeah. Well, and
And
then because maybe out of not knowing, that's kind of cool that it could be taken universally too. Because I think that's what my quartet playing it found so easy to dive into, was just this sort of a very universal feeling of sadness. And it's such a heartfelt movement.
yeah.
How in the
Oh,
world, talk about a leading question, how in
yeah.
the world do you think somebody could move out of such a terribly sad feeling and end the piece on an upward note?
Well, Beethoven is very ingenious as always, and he sometimes likes to connect movements. So you won't have a distinct pause after the third movement. He writes a florid violin cadenza. And by cadenza, I mean something that's supposed to sound improvisatory, although Beethoven wrote out every note that he wanted there and even added some for the other instruments, but it sounds like it's made up.
Hmm.
And it drifts very nicely into the beginning of the finale, which is where he places his Russian theme in honor of Count Razumovsky.
Hmm.
And James gets to play that Russian theme. Beethoven's loving to give these things to the cello.
Yeah, that's one of several moments. I think the first and the second and this fourth movement, it's sort of my job to to be the first, or to say the thing that the whole rest of the quartet is gonna be built on. And um, it's it's a little scary. It's also exciting. I think it's also like gathering up your group and saying like, all right, guys, here we go.
So this movement isn't just some little tossed off rondo. Beethoven gives it plenty of weight, even though it's, in a cheerful guise. He makes a full-fledged sonata form.
Again.
He even repeats the exposition. And we're probably, going on at length, but there's one part that I think you'll especially like to listen for, which is when he presents the Russian theme at the end. He slows everything down, and there's kind of what I feel is mock sadness as he presents it. And then he banishes everything with a virtuosic flourish at the end.
Perfect. Well, that's to me feels like a great place to leave it, unless you have anything else.
No, it's a great piece. You're gonna have a great time.
Okay. And we hope you all enjoy it. I know we in the quartet love playing it, and expect to do so for many more years. And thank you all for being here to listen, and thank you, Mom, for coming to tell us about it.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.